vision is very powerful because, that sort of drives you.
If you're not uncomfortable, then you're not challenging yourself.
Yeah. Someone who has intellect, someone who speaks well. How are you building skills? How are you learning, unlearning and relearning?
You need to invest in yourself first because I'm going to put in work in you.
Passion is like a curse. Like, no matter how far you think you've gone away from it, it keeps dragging you back.
When I'm having a consultation with someone and they're like, oh, Lagbacha got it, so I can get it. So I don't think you need to go to Lagbacha.
Contentment is great game.
Not everybody is your client.
Yeah. Who are the disruptors in this industry? Like, who are the people who are doing things differently?
Invest in yourself and be consistent. And now I really, really listen to my gut.
Yeah.
And I would rather have no business than have the wrong people.
This is TINE Africa podcast. The new sound of international education in Africa. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of TINE Africa podcast. My name is Louis Adekola, and I am the host of this podcast where we talk about everything that has to do with international education in the continent of Africa. Today, I am joined by two amazing individuals who are my colleagues, who are my friends, who are people that I love to see and work with and chat with and throw banters with. And today will be no different. So we're going to be talking about a topic that is very important that I love to talk about. And I don't think I talk about it as much. I don't think we talk about it as much as well. So today we are going to be looking at something very, very important. As we continue to do our work in the sector, as we continue to support Africans who are seeking international education, international exposure, and building on the experiences that they have, it is very important for us as professionals and colleagues within the industry to build on our capacity, to build on our professional and ethical practices, but also beyond that, to also build on our etiquette. So today, we are going to be looking at ethics and etiquette as a toolkit for international education professionals. And I'm joined by two individuals, two personalities, two amazing ladies, and I'm just going to introduce them right away. To my immediate left is my G.
That's right.
My G, that's right. Bimpe Femi-Oyewo is the founder and CEO of Edward Consulting. Hello, Bimpe.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to be here.
Yep.
Okay, and I also have Halima. Halima is Halima Alawiye is the West African officer for the University of Dundee. Hi, Halima.
Hi, Louis. Absolutely, great. I feel fantastic being here.
Great. I'm so happy to have both of you here.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So today we're going to be talking about ethics and etiquettes. And so when I pronounce this, I'm usually conscious that only one of it has TH.
God.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's like you're saying the same thing, but it's different because one has T and one has TH. So it's ethics and etiquettes. Just so I don't say ethics and ethic. Oh, I mean, no. So I don't say ethics and etiquettes. Anyway, so before we get into the crux of the conversation, I'd like to give you that moment to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, what you do. All right. But maybe we take it a little further into telling us who you are, what you do, and your journey into international education. So let's start with you, Halima.
Okay. So my journey into international education is quite peculiar. I think I was sharing this with Bimpe earlier on. Initially, before coming into the sector, I was working with UK DFID, now FCDO.
Oh.
And then afterwards, the project that I was working on came to an end. It was called GEMS 3, so Growth and Employment in States.
I knew about that.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really big.
Yeah.
It happened for a couple of years. So I actually joined quite towards the end of the program. Though renewal was possible for other projects, but this was in the north, and this is when things were really bad with Boko Haram and the like. So moved back to Lagos, and then try to find a job, and this is me like on all of these like websites looking for a job, and I'm just like, what happened to all those uncles who said, you know what, just move back?
Yes.
I got you.
Have 2-1. Just have a 2-1 or first class.
Just do so well. You
Yeah.
get a job easily. Like, oh, I know someone who
I
someone.
I love those uncles. Bless their heart.
It wasn't really happening, so I was just like, God, you know, I'm in your hands kind of thing. So I was just applying. And then my beautiful website, hotnigerianjobs.com, was where I saw the vacancy for, you know, a recruitment officer for Newcastle University. And I applied and I got a response and I was shocked. I don't know, I was shocked because Hot Nigerian Jobs is not really a site that people visit. I just didn't think I would get a response. But for me, it was just for my sanity. I just had to, you know, keep putting myself out there, sending CVs, going on like the website. And I got a response and I was just like, wow, like, you know, this is real. Did the interviews and that's how I got into the sector. And now it's, you know, going on to 5 years.
Wow.
In December, and I'm just so grateful for the journey so far. You know, the friendships I've made, the meaningful connections, the value that I've been able to add to others, and the value I've also received. And I'm looking forward to what it's going to be like, you know, in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
That's how Hot Nigerian Jobs as a platform
That's great. And
that brought me into
yeah.
the sector. So thank you, Hot Nigerian Jobs, wherever you are.
Yeah. So you worked with Newcastle, you said, and then was it straight from Newcastle to Dundee where you are now,
Yeah.
or was there any other?
No, so it was straight from Newcastle University.
So yeah, what did you study, by the way? I wanted to know if that was also like connected or anything.
So it's not connected at all. So I think I did a post on LinkedIn recently about this, how it's so important for us not to, you know, cancel ourselves away from opportunities just because we feel that we don't meet the requirements.
Yeah.
Especially when it's not technical.
Yeah.
So most of the skills that you're able to gain in certain courses, areas, you're able to apply those same skills in different sectors.
Yeah.
So I studied chemistry with pharmacology
Wow.
at the University of Birmingham. And then I did a master's in management.
Wow. Okay, so now it's very peculiar because, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of like pharmacology. I could have thought like marketing or like, I think that most people would think that you
It's in management, actually.
Oh, yeah, management work.
So I did management, for my master's.
Was that before you got the job or like?
Oh yeah, before. So I did everything. I did like my uni, like undergrad, postgrad, and then moved to Nigeria to do NYC. So I made sure I did everything before. If I had moved back, I probably wouldn't go back.
Great, thank you. I mean, that was great. So let's talk about you, Bimpe.
Amazing, by the way. Hi, everyone. My name is Bimpe. I am the founder and CEO of Edward Consulting. For those that don't know, Edward Consulting is an educational consulting firm. When I started Edward Consulting, I wanted a consulting firm that allowed Africans access quality education at an affordable rate, because I understood that many people got into schools and couldn't afford to go or couldn't attend because of tuition. And so one of the things that we set up was ensuring that funding was an important part of the application process. And in just 5 years, we were able to secure $20 million in scholarships.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. We have clients from Nigeria, Ghana, Malawi, Zambia studying in MIT, Oxford, HEC Paris, University of Toronto, just naming any school. Well, most schools, really good schools. And I think that it's so interesting because I didn't think that this was where I was going to end up. So my first love is international development. I think I connect with Louis on that. So I went to University of Maryland. I studied political science and sociology. And then afterwards, I'd done a lot of work with international organizations. I did some work in Fiji, in UNDP Fiji, as well. I also did some work in the US, in Texas, and then I moved back for NYC, and then I worked with the National Human Rights Commission for a bit. And then I went back for my master's, and my master's was at Duke University in international development policy, because that was my first love. I felt like I was put on this earth to make a difference, to make positive change, and just be a part of adding value to someone's life. And I loved it. And so when I finished from Duke, I decided to move back. Or God made me move back. Things happened, right? Yeah. Things things happened that allowed me to move back. And I feel like if I didn't make that move back, there would be no Edward Consulting. At the time, I wasn't happy with that decision, or I didn't think that was the decision I wanted for myself. I moved back, and then I started applying to jobs. I got a job in Abuja, but the conversation about that job was, it's a toxic environment. I'm like, nope. This was the major thing I was looking for, was a place where mentally I felt like I could grow, and it would be an enriching environment for me. So I didn't accept that role. And then there was an opportunity to do an education fair in a high school, and they invited me. And I found out like maybe 4 days before the event, and I was like, they're like, Oxbridge is gonna be there, the Ivy, and all these places you knew growing up. I was like, who am I? I'm nobody. Like, because I'd been doing helping people get into school on the side. Even when I was a Duke student, I would consult on the side. I'd been doing it even before I went back for my master's at Duke. But I'd never done it, like put my 2 legs in it. And so I was like, if I'm going to step out, I need to step out correct, or I need to step out at all. But I had like 5 days. And so in 5 days, I fixed my best friend and he's passed away now, God rest his soul, but he's so amazing. He helped me set up like a week's website. I created my logos. I created a pull-up banner, because I'm just like, if I don't step out right, then I shouldn't go. And then, my mom had someone working in the house, and then I begged her, please follow me. Everybody you get a commission. Because there was going to be a moment where you had to like walk on the stage and do like an elevator pitch, and I'm like, I'm not going to leave my laptop for everyone to grab it, and I'm not going to carry my bag as all day. And so I was like, please just stay here, and if anyone comes to the booth, just be like, either be here, come in, like it's just. And then I did my elevator pitch, and then I came back to my booth, and it was full. What? It was full, and everyone that had been doing this for like 10 years, 15 years. Like my sister went to Oxbridge like in 1998, like places I had known growing up. It was empty, and my booth was full. And I remember the event was supposed to end at 2, and I was there till 4 because people wouldn't leave, and because it was just me, and everybody was like, "Oh, where's your office? I want to come." They was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't thought that far." I just showed up today, and then I thought I would do it in and out. And I was just like, you know what is worth doing is worth doing well. So let me just put myself, give it a real shot and see what happens. Honestly, I'm shocked by what has happened, because it was something that I thought I would continue to do on the side. But I think God put me in a position to be so uncomfortable in the US where I had to move back. And because I made that move, I was able to just give it 100%.
Yeah. That is amazing. Really amazing. Both of you have shared like really powerful thoughts, so like background that I never knew, like a lot. I knew a few things about both of you, and I met Bimpe not too long ago, but we're so close now. You would think that we grew up together. Sometimes I think about it and I'm just thinking, I recently just knew this lady. Like, and there was a time, like when we were preparing for the TINE event last year, and I was just looking for who are the disruptors in this industry, like who are the people who are doing things differently. And again, the way Bimpe said, God made her uncomfortable in America, brought her back here, was the same way I felt like God like led me to finding Edward Consulting. And at that time, there was nobody I was bringing to TINE that I did not do background check on. Like, I need to check who was coming to that stage. And then I was reading a story, how the name came to be and how that connected to her dad. And I was amazed by the vision. And for me, vision is very powerful because, that sort of drives you. Like we say that passion is like a curse. Like no matter how far you think you've gone away from it, it keeps dragging you back. So thank you both for sharing that. At this point, let me introduce myself as well. So I studied educational management at Adekola University, Akumba. No, like I'm going to say very well. Let me slow down.
Every word.
Yeah. Okay, so I studied educational management at Adekola University, Akumba, Akoko, Ondo State, Nigeria. So, that was where I did my first degree. And you know how you go to universities and And education students are usually looked down on. Like they look down at people. They look at us with disdain,
especially then.
Yeah.
Like if
exactly.
You're not a doctor, lawyer, if you're not like the professional,
do students, I have this thing with it, but I along the line just knew that along the line as well, you get to a point that this is what God wants you to do. Do you understand? And I started off like with starting my NGO at 18, and then running that for a while, building teams in different countries, working with people, collaborating. It was how I found myself in education. And then, of course, I became a student counselor, and then again, building in international development and working with organizations. I think that was how mine is not as solid and like really powerful as what you ladies have shared. But I think... Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy that we actually started off that way. But you touched on a lot of things, and I will start with you, Bimpe. When you were talking about coming out and coming out correct, and I think this is one of the things that we sometimes forget that we do. Some of us like do it unconsciously. Like the industry puts a bit of like that demand on you because you have to come out correct like every single time. So let me take that and ask you, Halima, what is etiquette in the international education industry and why is it important?
Okay, so I would say in summary, etiquette is just a set of rules, a set of customs that would govern people's behavior. And that could be either socially or professionally. These rules are taught sometimes, but these rules are known, I'm sure growing up, especially because we're African, there's certain things that we know not to do. And our parents would even say, I'm sure you've heard this like slogan, remember the child
of whom you are.
Who you are. They don't get to speak too much. Is the eye. It's on the fact. Tomafa. Like even like our parents, they don't speak. They're just like, you want to take food, you look at your mom, would know whether you should take that thing or not.
Yeah, or not.
You want to do something, you want to go out, you just like, and then you just comport yourself. So we actually had etiquette growing up, but we just didn't have that word attached to it. And so these they're just rules that literally just form our behaviors, socially and professionally, and just helps us to be able to interact with people in a respectful, productive manner and professional manner.
Good.
And it's in the international education sector, it's absolutely important. We have so many stakeholders that we're dealing with, from school counselors to agents to lecturers to students, just NGOs, scholarship organizations. We have to interact with so many people. Like that connection, we speak for a living.
Yeah.
And so having all of these rules guiding our process in the way we approach people, understanding different cultures as well, knowing what to do, also accepting people for who they are, is absolutely important for this sector, because then people will see that you're able to see them for who they are. You're not trying to impose your own learnings, your own values on them, because it's very important to understand that we've come from different environments. People have different value systems. People think differently. People have different mindsets towards others. So when you're approaching other people, what have you thought about? Have you thought about, okay, with this kind of person, they may see going to the UK or going to the US to study as, wow, am I allowed to wear my hijab? That kind of thing. And just being able to share and say, look, you're going to be fine. Like, this is acceptable, because we don't know that they're thinking about all of these things in their minds. And so following these rules actually helps you to be able to actually reach more people and then just ensure that the industry blossoms as well.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love how you picked it from the angle of how sometimes it is taught and sometimes we just grew up with it. And no matter where you're from, like, you just realize that sometimes it's just like the what you know, and it could come in different angle. It could be like
Definitely.
you've grown with people that consciously tells you what to do and what not to do, or sometimes it's just like by watching and by growing. And even in the industry, like some people have worked in agencies before and they've seen their bosses, or they've also seen people who come to their offices for sessions, or
Yeah.
like and they're like, oh, I like that, the way that person dressed or the way that person sound. For me, that was a lot, for me as a person. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
So whenever I speak about etiquette, I would always ask, what is your pet peeve?
Okay.
Because, people have pet peeves, and unfortunately, we interact with people that do not necessarily know us to know what our pet peeves are. And the things that would tick us off, that gets to us. And I always think like, wow, if we're interacting with all of these, different people and they do it, how would you react? So I'll start with myself. One of my pet peeves is people like, I'm like right beside Bimpe right now, right? But I'm trying to get her attention, and then like I'm poking, like they tap, like, and I'm calling her and I'm saying Bimpe. I'm just like right here, like just hold you, like just Halima, like speak to me. So that really irks me. But you would see students. I'm sure you've had students tap you.
Yes, I have. Yeah. What's my pet peeve? I think for me, it's not asking right questions. Like there's some questions that
Louis like, don't be daft. You're trying to say it in that nice way.
Yeah, for me, I like when we go to fairs. Like I like when someone can come and like ask questions about themselves. Like even if it's not like lots of research, it doesn't have to be. But have a bit of. Don't expect that I'm going to tell you about yourself.
Exactly.
Do you know? I need that information about you to be able to tell you about what I have.
Yeah,
or like
that would be beneficial to you.
Don't come and say, tell me what to study. Like I won't tell you what to study. I don't know what backgrounds you have.
I just met you.
Yes, you understand.
2 seconds ago.
Yeah. So if I remember any other one, I'll say, yeah, Bimpe.
That's one of my pet. But I remembered another one. Oh, I think the other one would have to be when I'm having a consultation with someone and they're like, oh, Lagbacha got it, so I can get it. So I don't think you need to go to Lagbacha. You need to go to Lagbacha, because when people are not willing to listen, and they always have many people, and then you start to ask, what's Lagbacha's profile? It's a completely different profile.
So then
You're comparing yourself with someone that has a very different profile. You want the same thing. I'm just like, I'm like, go to Lagwadak. Because then why are you here? Figure out, Lagwajak's got you.
Yeah, good. Yeah. All right. So I want to ask you, thank you for that question. I'm just still thinking about what?
Like,
yeah,
So many.
there's so
And
many.
so there was this thing I saw on, it was a funny skit that I saw on TikTok or Instagram, and the guy was making jokes of like the ITKs in secondary schools, and like
You shared it with
I shared it with you. Yes, I did. It's like all those ITKs. They're like, yeah, I want to become artificial. I want to study artificial. Artificial can be defined as like I get that a lot,
Get it a lot.
Yeah. It's no.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So Bimpe, you're a young person, right? And you run an agency as big as yours, and you've made such an impact, in so many areas. I saw your post about your boy.
Yeah.
It was a time last year. Yes, I saw it. You did, yeah, but you're not missing it this year.
You're coming through.
Yeah. So he was at TINE last year, and he has gotten a scholarship into like many different universities, and you've set yourself apart, so much so that your impact is already speaking with you. I've seen posts from Duke, from Empower, from all these different persons and organizations about the work that you do. So let's talk about what are those things that has been your deciding factors? What are those things? I talked about vision earlier. Well, what are those things that forms your ethical backgrounds or decision-making ideologies?
All right, thank you so much. Yes, and shout out to Bright. Bright is a 16-year-old boy that just had dreams bigger than I had at 16 and wanted more for himself and his family. And because of the passion and energy he put into it, we were able to secure over $2.1 million for one little boy. And now he got into multiple schools and he's covered tuition, room and board, as well as health insurance. So we just had to cover SAT fees and every fee, application fee and ticket. So yeah.
But I'm so glad God made you uncomfortable.
I know.
We're lucky to have you here.
Think about the impact of I think this is why God put me in that box where I had to get on the flight back. Okay? A direct flight from North Carolina. I just had to. But yeah, so I think that for me, when I set out to create Edward Consulting, I wanted something that could stand on its own 2 feet. And then we would add partnerships, which I believe that with the right partnerships that are aligned with your mission, you're able to maximize impact. But if you have the wrong partners, that can also deter you as well, right? Because when I was going to school in the US, I remember that there was only one agency and they were the monopoly for the US. And I worked with them, and upon getting to the US, I realized that it was very, very heavily focused on commission. They were pushing certain schools that had more commission, and I realized that it wasn't about me, the client, right? Some of the schools that my friends got sent into were not a good fit for them, because in the US, a lot of people, when you get in, you're like undecided, and they wanted to do a certain type of engineering, and they did not have it, right? And so it was one of those things where I realized that I wanted to build something that stood on its own feet, where I could work with any African from any country to get into a school without knowing anybody, just based off of the strength of our work. And then add on partnership to maximize that, right? And so for me, the most important thing was integrity. The ability to be honest and have honest conversations where if someone comes to me, I'm not going to sell them a dream. I'm going to assess their profile. I'm going to be honest. Realizing that with that honesty, I'm building credibility and trust.
Yeah.
And realizing also that not everybody is your client.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not one of those people where...
And not everybody is your partner as well.
Not everybody is your partner.
Yeah.
Right? Not one of those, the end justifies the means, right?
Yeah.
No, I believe that I have to be transparent. I have to be honest. And so when we meet people where we assess their profile, it's very personalized for Louis, for Halima, not because they want to do the same thing, right? So really having honest conversations and not being willing to compromise ourselves for money or partnerships. There's money we've turned down. We've turned down money. We turn down money. You know, in my organization, you make a joke that Bimpe is the refund queen. I'll be refunded. There's a couple of times I haven't followed my gut on like a client, and it's come back to bite me.
Yeah.
And now I really, really listen to my gut. If my gut is telling me it won't be a good fit, and fit doesn't mean, they don't have the best profile for the first 2 years. We didn't work anybody that had a first class. So it's not about first class. It's about people understanding that you need to invest in yourself first, because I'm going to put in work in you.
So you just have to...
You have to. If you're not able to show up for yourself. And so just really ensuring that like integrity, transparency, and honest conversation. Even with my consultants, they know that, please do not close anybody that is not a good fit. It will come back to bite us. It's not one of those things where, and I feel like we're one of those organizations where there's no quota. I remember every time I hire someone, they're like, what's the quota? How many people do I need to bring in? We actually don't. Because I find that sometimes, especially when someone comes in fresh, it can be very overwhelming and it can force people to bring the wrong people. Yeah. And I would rather have no business than have the wrong people.
I'd rather have
no business
than have the wrong people. That is the quote for this episode. Because that's really good. I think because we can have this conversation in a very professional, very super organized conversation around ethics, but I think sometimes reflecting on our personal journeys and our decision-making process that led us to the point of establishing what we're doing and establishing our process and, reflecting on those things that has even cost us pain that we could have avoided, but learning from all of those. Those are the things that really forms our ethical ideology. Do you get me? So thank you for sharing that. Let's go now to, because of course there's a lot of personality that comes to play when you're deciding what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to, right? So let's look at that in terms of personal branding. And I would like both of you to speak about this. Now, in terms of personal branding, how do you think that people in the industry, whether they're counselors, they're reps, or they're colleagues in the industry from whatever angle, how can we brand ourselves in a way that we distinguish ourselves, not just like not like we want to be super different, but like how to make ourselves special? Maybe you want to look at it from the angle of etiquette, and then you might want to look at it from the angle of ethical practices.
So with etiquette, a lot of things come into play. And I know like when people hear the word etiquette, the first thing they think about is, what fork do I use for what meal?
Yes, table manners.
Exactly.
Don't talk on the dining table.
Things that they think about, but it's actually like beyond all of that. It's down to how you dress, and we can use our wonderful colleague as an example. Simi, she's a brand. Like when I see pink, I know
Simi's around.
the pound.
Have you had a car?
Yes, I have.
No, so let's don't hold your thought on that. Don't forget it. So Simi I love her, and we're going to really just chat about her. Like, there was a time that we were going to host a party to do a naming ceremony for her wigs. Yes, like we were going to host a naming ceremony for her wigs, and just give the wigs
like a christening.
Yeah, christening. Yeah, for the wigs. She's that like. And then, fabulous. Go on.
No, honestly, so that's like one of the ways that you can just stand out, right? So from the way you dress, people know, okay, this person, I know when I see this person, they're going to be wearing pink, they're going to be wearing like red. They always have something. And if you think about like Debola Lagos now, the red hat, that is showing a brand. So like he's known for that because it's, it's repetitive. When people see him, they know like Debola Lagos will be wearing a red hat. So one of the ways people can actually brand themselves is from the way they dress. So how do you want to be seen? What do you want? How do you not want to blend with other people? How do you want to stand out? So what you're comfortable with would determine what angle you would, choose to basically apply. Another way is also being punctual. Very, very important. When, for us, we visit a lot of agents, a lot of schools, and when they see that you're consistent in being punctual, they will be, they just arrange themselves in a way that they know, like, when you're coming, like, this person is always punctual. Please, maybe the first, second time they were not organized, but when they see that it's something that you're doing consistently, they'll basically just fall into it and ensure that when you're coming to see me, they're even there, a few minutes before, because they know that this person's always punctual. So punctuality is another way that you can use to brand yourself. And you just, it'll almost form a name. Like nicknames come out of things that we do repetitively and consistently.
Yeah.
Like this one that is always, this one that's always.
The refund queen.
So what did you say?
Like the refund queen, like she said.
So it's like you build a brand out of what you're known for to do, a number of times, multiple times. So from your dress, even from the way you speak. And, I've seen all these like videos on Instagram. I don't subscribe to them. I'm not one that likes them. But you know how people are just trying to prove a point that they can also be mad. Like, if you come for them, and then it's like, my Yoruba is great. Yeah.
State and
me or Banjo or something. Also, like, don't. This is can be crazy as well. So they're already building like a brand for themselves, and so it could be positive, it could be negative. But when people see that you are the way you speak, the way you dress, the way you treat other people, when it's done quite a number of times, they'll basically just say this is the kind of person that you are. Right. So we actually need to be careful, because even when you don't do it intentionally, you're already a brand. Right. And it's just the same way you approached me. Like, I didn't see these things, it started in church. Honestly, like getting into etiquette started in church. Like I was not one that, saw a passion in it. I didn't see it, but when I was growing up, I think it was just the background of my mom. Like she used me as her lab rat. Like I was not allowed to have like walk bare feet. I was not allowed to have scars on my body. Like I would get to have scars in their body. So basically, I could not.
That one is
on my nails, literally.
control that one.
Don't get into it. And that comes to a lot of things, because now you cannot get into a fight. You can't,
especially when you're seeing the national dailies carry that
maybe
story.
you should.
Was Gabi joking?
I was very conscious of like scars on my skin.
Really?
Yeah, when I was younger.
So usually like my pajamas would be like shorts and like crop tops when I was quite young. And when I've, gone out to play, walked, and then I've hurt myself, I would wear like the long.
But it means when you still take confidence that actually when they start it.
And my leg got stuck.
You.
Yeah, and so they had to like drag me out, and then it like I had like bruises like on either side of my knee.
I love that you
And I
shared
just like,
in
my
that
mom's gonna hit.
conversation that we just had, that we shared both the type of the engagement that we do.
Do you know what I mean? So I was just like, so I felt like she used me, and then so maybe growing up that really just formed the way I spoke. Even I don't know if you've heard this before, or if you've been told this before, how sometimes I'm in the room, my mom will be like, "You're shouting bedroom voice. Why are you shouting?"
Experience it.
Sex. Yeah. So she was just like programming all these things. Yes, she's like, "Why are you shouting?" Like, and then got into church, and we were having like this retreat for the choir team, and the office of the pastor and the church admin had put my name down on Halima Etiquette. I'm like, "Excuse me, what do you mean? Like, I don't know nothing about etiquette."
Well, you do quite a lot, because I mean,
No.
even when I was thinking about I told you when I was just thinking of like having conversation about this topic, you came first to my mind, because you're very prim and proper and like composed and like very demure, very mindful. Look at the way you talk, very mindful, very. This is the first time I'm saying this, to be honest. Like since the trend, very cute. Yeah, you see now that I don't even know. It's not even. You know the flow. This is the first time I'm saying it, because I'm like, that's a lot.
It's allowed, especially in this conversation.
Okay. So let's talk about let's look at it from the angle, Bimpe.
Of ethics.
Yeah,
or
like the ethical,
branding.
in terms of personal branding, how that relates to ethics.
Yeah, so I think, because I would think etiquette is more about social, and then ethics is more about moral. So it's more about like,
just dropping quotes here and there. It's just casually like about social, and this one is about moral.
right? So it's more about moral. It's about being able to be someone that they trust your word, right? So if you're working with a university and you say X, they believe X.
Yeah.
They're not going to be questioning it. Even if something happens, they're like, okay, it cannot be Y.
Yeah.
Because you said X. So I think I'll be honest with you. Ethics is one of those conversations I try and shy away from. I try to run away from. Louis can tell you. And I think because as in our professional, if you allow me to be candid, in our professional right now, I think because of the devaluation of the Naira, and not just Naira, but many African currencies, there's been a lot of people are afraid or struggling with how that is going to affect
The business.
recruitment, business. And now people are more inclined to do anything it takes. Where people might be more inclined to not have honest conversations.
Yeah.
And not tell someone that, well, you know what? In the UK now, you're not going to be able to go with your dependents for a master's taught program, right? But they will say, oh, yeah, it's possible. And when it comes down that line, I've heard of situations where people are actually able to help set up wedding certificates where they're actually able to go with a spouse and things like that. So I find that I think that as a sector, we also have to be honest with ourselves about some of these quotas and things we're putting in place. And we also have to be mindful of the environment and the current climate.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when people have certain expectations and the expectations are so high, in a climate where things are declining, I don't think that's realistic. And it's going to force people into a corner. They do things that are unethical, where people might be okay using, false documents, where people might be okay. I've had situations where people were very aggressively trying to be partners with us because they could tell that,
You're going to bring the numbers.
They were going to bring
them.
Exactly. And also that they also would be able to stand out as this person that brought X organization. And it wasn't really focused on how will this really benefit the client, but more about the money, the commission. So I think as an individual, you just have to get to a point and realize, like, what do you stand for? What do you actually stand for? Right? Because I think if your values are clear, then even if you're working with an organization or a firm that is, not unethical, but, sauce, sauce, because, when you follow the line, you're going to just say, I'm not comfortable doing that. You should be able to say that to your employer. You should be able to say that to but I know it can be very difficult. I recently was recruiting, and I asked one of the consultants I was recruiting a question. And the question actually ended up with him providing a situation where he kind of did something that was unethical. But he didn't even see it as unethical. He said it as an example. Because where he's coming from, it's normal. And it's so funny because we actually didn't judge him. We took a step back and said, this environment you're coming from is so problematic that you're going to come to an interview and tell me something that is unethical. Without even realizing it's unethical. Because his way, he solved a problem, but he solved it in an unethical way. I don't think to him, it was any given day.
Yeah.
And it was until we said it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's true. And sometimes when you're in those kinds of environment for so long, you just lose yourself. It becomes the way of life.
Yeah.
It goes back to what we said earlier, how your environment actually impacts it grows your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just, I always say, like, it's so important for people to have values.
It's so important.
Your values, I could tell, like, even from just, like, meeting, should I call it, like, the green room?
Yeah.
I could tell, like, okay, we have similar values.
Yeah.
So when you see people's values, you're able to now determine, like, this person has a capacity to do this.
Yeah.
This person has a capacity not to do certain things. Of the values that have been imbibed.
Exactly.
And one of the values that you spoke about today was integrity. How it's so key in everything.
It's so key.
It is very, very key. You've said quite a lot of things, both of you, and that's very, very powerful. How people sometimes get used to doing things wrongly, that it becomes like their sister, known for them. And so when someone does the right thing, that person looks like the bad person. You understand?
Want me to come and
shake things up. They might be doing things.
They actually put you down, or they make you feel like you're doing too much. Or then they go, where do you think you are? It's such a bad.
Yeah. I was going to ask another question, but you've already answered that question. But I'm going to just like bring it together. I was going to ask the question about at what point does ethics and etiquette then mix? And you've already talked about it quite nicely, when you're talking about the social and the moral aspect of things. And, that blends together because your morals create how you relate with the public, and how you relate with people also give you a feedback to reflect on your own self.
Right.
So thank you. My excellent buddies. So I want to ask you, Halima, one question, and I think this will be like my last round of questions. Halima, how that, like I said a bit about pressure earlier, how do you think that people can brand themselves, can maintain their steez, without, doing beyond their means? Again, because like not everybody earn the same thing in the industry.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to be at the same level. You want to dress well. You want to look good, carry the big brand bags and stuff like that, like somebody's carrying. But how do you maintain yourself in a way that you're not putting too much pressure to do beyond your means while still presenting yourself rightly in the industry?
Yeah. So someone will always tell me that it's not about the bag, it's about the person carrying the bag.
Okay.
I love how we're creating quotes in this episode.
So, an individual would have a dysfunctional mind. and put their values in mundane things, things that are fleeting, like bags, and be so concerned about looking a certain way that they forget who they are. So they concentrate on, that's why a lot of packaging happens in Nigeria. And that's why a lot of people fall for packaging. Yeah. My brother calls it the plastic life, where, you're driving a certain type of car, but then you don't even have like the funds to maintain or sustain. It's such a corrupt and defiled mindset. For people in this industry, it's important to know who you are, like your identity. And then contentment is great gain. Yeah. When you're content, you would understand that, okay, this is what I'm earning now. This is what I can afford. Brands have different levels. You can start with Zara, you can start with H&M, and you will still look pink.
You can wear Nigerian brands, some African brands, that's a
There's Louis Vuitton, and it doesn't actually just
good on you, yeah.
We've put so much value on all of these things that the work that you're trying to put in, making yourself look good by all of these additional things, should have gone into yourself. Like someone who has intellect, someone who speaks well, like how are you building skills? How are you learning, unlearning and relearning? How are you improving yourself? How are you trying to upgrade yourself? Even when you upgrade our phones, there's always iOS. It's always upgrade. Should have been like not being assured that from how to solve you, but you want your back to be upgraded. Sorry, no.
Yeah.
So, but anyone who's listening to this, I would say just sit down with yourself, examine yourself, appraise yourself, understand where you are. And because, I'm just going to quote a Bible scripture, how it talks about when you compare yourself, you're a fool. So when you already start looking at that person and say, I want to dress like this person, I want to be like this person, you've lost it. Because there's so much in you to give. And then for every level, like, you just keep upgrading and improving. Okay, first you're earning £1,000 now. There are things that you can get to look good. You're earning 2,000, and then you keep upgrading. But then when you're not content, you will do things that will contradict your values, and then that feeds into unnecessary things.
Exactly.
And then it just goes down from there. But just know who you are and be content.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is really deep thoughts and that you've shared. I love it because I'm also learning, and it's a lot of learning that we're doing here, and I really appreciate that. So I'm going to come to you now, Bimpe, with this final question. You talked about at the beginning, you talked about how you started off, Edward Consulting, and you went to that place with your newly formed, and you haven't thought about office and all of that. What is one lesson that you've learned that has changed? Or no, let's ask it this way. If you meet that person that went to that event, half prepared, what would be your advice for that person now?
So are you saying advice from
yourself, your younger self?
My younger self.
Yeah, just coming into that industry newly, so you can draw on like the lessons that you learned between now and then.
The major thing I would say is invest in yourself and be consistent, right? Because I would not lie to you, as a business owner, it's hard, especially in the early stages. You're doing things, no one is saying it. You're not even sure anyone knows you exist. You're creating content, creating like knowledge. You're getting 1 likes. But it's so much effort. You're writing from your heart, and it's very easy for you to start to feel like, is anybody even seeing? Does it even matter? Yeah. But it's the groundwork. And I think in the society we are in today, I call it the popcorn society, where we love things to go pop, pop, pop.
Very wave generation.
We don't understand the value of hard work, and we don't understand the value of journey and the process. It's part of the thing that's going to shape you and build you into what you need to be. That resilience, it sets you apart to know that, you know what, there's absolutely nothing I cannot make it through or come back from. Because I remember I started Edward Consulting in 2019, COVID hit. People were not even sure they were going to leave. Were they thinking about going to school? So like few months, I did not pay myself. I just said, let me observe the society and see what is going on. And it was very discouraging, and at some point nobody was talking about studying abroad because you're not even sure if you will be here tomorrow.
It was a very tough time.
And then things, and it was hard on businesses, and then things calmed down, and then I was like, okay, there's COVID. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that everybody's at home. and do IG live. And so I did an IG series, and I invited different people. Someone spoke on Chevening, someone spoke on MasterCard, someone came and spoke about online education, because I thought as well, since a lot of the traditional ways were not accessible, maybe online as well. And then I kept doing things, and sometimes you're just like, is anybody seeing? Am I getting the visibility? And I think for me, as I'm going to say this, and I'm sure Liv is going to be pretty short, I'm a very behind the scenes person, but my business has forced me to put myself like in front. It's really uncomfortable, and I say to my team, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not challenging yourself. Yeah. They're uncomfortable every day. Yeah. And that's how I grew, and that's where I've had the most growth, right? I never feel like I'm in a competition with anybody. I'm in a competition with who I was yesterday to be better. Yep. And that's why learning never ends. And that's why, like, you never say, oh, Aero Consulting is the number one. No, I don't believe in saying I'm number one. What am I aspiring to? I want to be better than I was, right? I want us to have quality service, and for people to feel like, even though sometimes things may not work out the way you want it to, but you know that I give you 100%. I care, right? So ensuring that like everyone that comes through us doesn't feel like a number, because I think that's where it's gotten to, right? Like, I had a conversation with someone that was looking for an MBA consultant, and she spoke to a consultant in the US. And when we spoke, and she said, Bimpe, I'll be honest, what has set you apart from others is the fact that I felt like you really care about me. You saw me, and I need to be on this journey with someone that I know has my back, sees me. It's not just a number like, oh, okay, just another number to add to the 20 million, you know, but these are people's stories, these are people's experiences, and it needs to be heard. They need to feel like they're valued. And so just doing the work and showing up and being consistent, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of the things that have opportunities, like, we've had our best year yet, I think, I would say, because there's been the TINE nomination, there's been speaking engagement, there's been
different countries.
Well, I said but you know what? If I go back to like September last year, there's been TINE, there's been Channels TV, there's been AIT was like about 3 years ago. There's been so much. And like, there's times where like we've been in spaces where we're the only Africans, and I told you, like, I make noise for visibility. I make noise like in Boston. I'm going to be in Boston in November, shouting about
another pie event.
Yeah, shouting about the rejection rate for Africans, and West Africa being 77, and I'm going to make noise. And like, what are you doing? And so just really understanding that when you get there, you have to speak up for the continent, because we're just not where we need to be in this space, but we're doing so much. That visibility is important. And so and all these things, I'd rather just be behind the scenes doing my good work, but understanding that visibility is important. And someone said it to me, Bimpe, people do not do business with businesses, they do businesses with people. And that changed it for me, where I was like, you know what? These things make me uncomfortable, but if it's going to allow the business be seen to be able to help more people, it's going to allow us to be in spaces where Africans are not as available, and be the one speaking up for the continent, speaking up for our rights, then I'm okay doing that. Right.
Thank you. That has just been amazing. Like, what you shared is powerful. Very. I thought it was just going to be an advice for your younger self, but now you've advised yourself, us, everybody, like the entire nation and the entire world. Listen to us now. And I mean, congratulations to you on all of this recognition in such a short time. And I think that's the thing about impact. That's the thing about when you create value for yourself, when you carve a niche for yourself. And that's the thing, and if you create value, you know. So all of this, like, ties. I wouldn't lie to you. When I was forming that, when we were thinking about this topic, I was just like, I'm used to hearing, like, or thinking, maybe it's just me thinking, ethics and etiquette. But now it makes absolute sense in ways that I never imagined. So thank you for sharing all of those. And let me drop one quote as well, so that I will not sound like. Well, it ties to everything that you said about being present, personal branding, and all of that. And again, at the ethics especially. And this is a quote I heard a while ago, which is like, we don't do the right things because of the right things others do to us. We do the right thing because it is the right thing to do.
Of course. Definitely.
100%.
Deep. All right, guys. It was really nice chatting with you. Thank you. I hope you had a nice time.
Amazing.
We could do this for hours.
Hours, we just keep going. Yeah.
Let's give you this nugget.
Yes. And I really hope that we can bring you back again and then we have a conversation, around things, other things as well as things emerge in the industry.
We'll love to.
Well, thank you, Halima, and thank you, Bimpe, for being here.
Thank you for having us. Again. We're totally twins.
Well, all right. That was just a very wonderful conversation that I've had with Halima and Bimpe. Halima is the West African officer for University of Dundee, and Bimpe is the founder and CEO of Edward Consulting. And we've had a very fantastic conversation. We've dropped quotes, we've thrown banters, we've asked ourselves questions and talked about ethics and etiquette, basically around how this is a toolkit for international education professionals and how we can leverage all of these opportunities to actually grow our personal brand, to build the profession better, and to make to create value and to make impact, in the work that we do and in the world that we live in. I really hope that you enjoyed this session as much as we did, and I hope that you also learned as much as we also have done. So if you have, please do not forget to subscribe to this channel. Do not forget to like, to share, and to comment. Let us hear from you. Let's hear feedback about what you're doing, what we're doing right, and what you would like us to engage with. So my name is Louis Adekola, as you already know, and I'm the host on TINE Africa podcast. This is the new sound of international education in Africa. Subscribe, and I'll see you again. Goodbye.